Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this episode of my Millennial Midlife Crisis. In my last few wellness update videos, I mentioned I've been having some struggles. I'm calling it my Millennial Midlife Crisis, but I just wanted to share a little bit more about that because there is so much I have learned about mental health in the last 2 years that literally just like explains my entire life. And I'm frustrated that I went so many decades struggling without this knowledge, but I live by the motto, once we know better, we can do better. And so yeah, I am just trying to do better in my life to try to not repeat the mistakes of the past. And I just wanted to share this for anyone out there who has never heard of these things the way I never had. I owe this awareness to a lot of people who were vulnerable on the internet, sharing their life experiences. And so I just want to share my experience with the hope that it can help somebody else. I know that I have felt so alone and so misunderstood most of my life by most people. Having this understanding of what's going on up in my mind, it changes everything. It changes how I view my past. It changes how I view my present, my future, all of my relationships, my struggles. Just like, it literally defines me. And I never knew this about myself. And yeah, I'm really having to work through a lot of forgiveness to myself because I beat myself up a lot, and like for things that happened decades ago, and I ruminate on those kind of things and just am like, why are you such a bad person? Why did you say that? Why did you make this mistake? Why did you choose this over this? And you know, why did you listen to these people? Why weren't you a leader, not a follower? And forgiving myself isn't like putting the blame on other people, but it's that back to the Maya Angelou quote. Now that I know better, I can do better. And I can forgive myself for the past me that didn't know any better. And she couldn't do any better than what she did at the time. So like, I have to forgive myself for that. I think that is part of the hardest part of this journey, besides just trying to get people to understand it, because some people just won't. So what I'm talking about here is neurodiversity. There is a difference between being neurotypical and being neurodiverse. Neurotypical people, I don't know because I'm not one, but my understanding is that life is a little bit of an autopilot. That you like wake up and you do your morning things, and then you go to your job and you come home from your job, you do your nighttime things, and it's like, that's just kind of what life is. But with a neurodivergent person, depending on, you know, what your diagnosis is exactly, like our brains just go in a lot of different directions at a lot of different speeds, and a lot of different things can trigger different things, and life is more complicated. Existing with this type of brain takes up more energy. We can get more easily tired by the same activity that a neurotypical person weren't. Just for example, the 9-to-5 type of work day. A lot of people act like that's like no big deal, like it's 9 to 5, you know, whatever. When I have worked a 9-to-5 type of job, the amount of brain energy that I have to use during the day to stay at my desk and like get my work done and those kind of things, it's so exhausting, and not just in a like, I need to take a nap kind of exhausting. It's like completely mentally draining. Like if you can just think of our energy as a battery, and someone who goes and works a 9 to 5, a neurotypical person might only use half their battery. They still have half their battery left to go do their evening activities. And a neurodivergent person, for me, it's like my battery is drained. I've got nothing left to give to no one. So often neurodivergent people will try to figure out where to get more energy to get through the evening or whatever. And this is where substance abuse comes in. That a lot of us will go to substances. Personally, I drank a lot, especially when I had that 9 to 5 type of job. Using substances as a way to numb out and disassociate and really like forget about the day, and trying to get the energy back up, even though we all know at the end of the day alcohol is going to zap your energy. But like, I didn't know that for decades. I couldn't tell you why I went and drank every night after work, but it was a habit. And it was what I did. It was what felt like it was kind of resetting my nervous system, or at least shutting off those parts of my brain that were going a million miles a minute in a million different directions, and shutting off those parts of my brain that beat myself up. Even though I would drink and cause more problems in my life that would beat myself up more for later, the initial beating up, like if I'd screwed up something at work that day, or even just got into a disagreement with somebody, or maybe even had a bad customer. That happened a lot to me in customer service jobs. One bad customer would just take down my mood for the whole rest of my shift. And I never understood the phrase, don't take it personal. I still find that really hard to deal with. I take everything personally. Even if I know, like in the customer service situation, it wouldn't matter which person working behind the counter that customer got. They were going to be, you know, that bitchy customer. So I get it. Like, I shouldn't take it personally. It wasn't a personal attack on me, you know, behind the register. They would have done that to anybody behind the register. But that doesn't matter, because to me, it personally happened to me, to this person. So I held that on. And even now knowing what I know about being neurodivergent, this literally just happened to me last week in a parking lot when, oh my gosh, I was pulling into a parking spot, and this man was like, you cannot park there. That is for the police officers. And it was like, the sign was very clearly, in the next spots over, those were for the police officers. But he was telling me it was for me. Like the sign went kitty corner across the parking spaces. And I was like, no, that's those spots. And he's like, no, it's this spot too. And then his wife comes up and she's like, this spot is for law enforcement. And I'm like, I park here all the time. And they like both give me dirty looks and are like staring over their shoulder as they're walking into the grocery store. And I left the grocery store. It's like, I don't want to park here, even though I know it's fine. You park here all the time. I don't want to see those people in the store, even though I don't even know if I would recognize them. I just like, a part of me wanted to go in the store and find a worker and ask them for verification that I was okay to park there. But those things upset my nervous system. Like, yeah, anyway. So that's the other part of neurodiversity. Like, it starts up here in our brains. Our brains are literally wired differently. Our brains literally work and see the world and think in different ways. But then the way our nervous system is, and this is where yoga comes in that I didn't even really realize. Why I fell in love with yoga, why I became so obsessed with it. It became my special interest. I could not learn enough or participate enough in anything yoga. Yoga and meditation was helping reset my nervous system, in which I did understand this biology. One of my specialties is restorative yoga, the rest and digest yoga. Like, this is literally from like the first year of my yoga teacher training. I took this 10-day specialty module at Kripalu, of course, and restorative yoga has always been my favorite type of yoga. And now I know why. Because of that nervous system reset, because of learning to slow down, because of learning to kind of reset your mind and body back to that peaceful place. Because I live up here. I live in that stressed out fight or flight state. And I recognized that after that restorative teacher training, but I didn't understand all of the whys until I got my neurodivergent diagnosis. And now I look back on every part of my life and it all makes sense. And so many of these pieces are fitting together. And that makes me feel so good. The understanding I have of myself and my life that I have now at 41, the peace that brings me, I can't even really describe it. It's the best feeling in the world. But then comes the millennial midlife crisis part of like, but now what? Now I know why I have struggled to hold down a job in different areas. Like, but how do I hold down a job now? Well, I need to find one that works with my neurodivergence. One that, you know, like, where I feel like I can succeed, because I am so sick of failing. I have felt like a failure in so many areas of my life for decades. And now that I understand that it was my neurodivergence and not because I'm a bad person and a failure, but it was my neurodivergence that caused issues for me, because I said things and I did things and I took jobs that were never going to work out for me. And I know that now. I understand why I've struggled with relationships, romantic, friendship, all of the relationships, all of the communication. Like, I understand now. It's just my neurodivergent brain. I struggle to communicate. I communicate best through email, where I can type out my thoughts and then like come back to it the next day and fine tune them so that I'm trying to communicate clearly. And then in video, I feel so comfortable in front of the camera because I know that I can edit this. I know if I say something wrong, if I start to ramble in one direction, I can stop myself and I can start over. And that's not to say I'm afraid of live video. Like, I love teaching my online yoga classes and my live meal preps because of the interaction, because I can go, screw that up, you know. It's like, that's why I include bloopers in all my videos. I think that stuff's funny. Like, that's being human. I never try to be perfect. That's a lie. I try to be the best I can, but I never try to pretend that I'm perfect. At least I hope I don't. I'm really working on unmasking a lot of these things, a lot of these layers of myself that I've picked up throughout the decades as kind of like coping mechanisms. Honestly, and I told my therapist this too, that being in front of the camera for my YouTube videos has been one of the most therapeutic things for me in terms of really seeing myself in those blooper moments, seeing myself when I forget to turn the camera off and I'm, you know, seeing who I actually am when no one's watching, you know, and not trying to be someone I'm not. I have always tried to be myself in my YouTube videos, but I think in the beginning I was trying to be maybe a little bit better than I really am, you know what I mean? Like, I think it was like trying to be too professional in my mind. That's like the word. It's like I was trying to be more professional than like letting my personality show through, kind of. I think I was taking it like too seriously, like trying to be serious and professional rather than like just being me and just being whatever. And I really feel like I have unmasked a lot of that, especially in the last 2 years. So I really wanted to make this video for other millennials who might be at this point in life as well and being like, why is it such a struggle? And, you know, maybe neurodiversity is part of it. For me, it started with seeing some of the business women that I look up to or that I'm part of their online groups when they started talking about being diagnosed. And I started thinking, I didn't know that's what that looked like. You have ADHD, like. And then I started learning more about neurodiversity and the different things we can have, different stuff going on up here, how a lot of things can look the same or have certain qualities that are the same. But yeah, I mean, you gotta talk to your psychologist about that. I don't diagnose anybody else. But first I saw my business mentors like coming out with their diagnosis. And then I started seeing women my age on social media talking about having issues with their children and then going to get their children diagnosed and finding out like, what do you mean that's a problem for them? Like, I'm like that too. And they're like, yeah, neurodiversity is genetic. So seeing all these women talk about neurodiversity led me down a rabbit hole. It became my new special interest. And I was like, this is it. This is me. And this explains everything. This explains every struggle I've ever had my whole life. Every feeling I've ever felt my whole life. It's just like, it just makes sense now. But now that it makes sense, my past, how do I go forward in the future? Hello, Millennial Midlife Crisis. I have tried so many different jobs out here in Las Vegas. Some have gone better than others. Some I knew from the jump were not going to work out. And sure as shit, they didn't. So trying to support myself is this chapter of the Millennial Midlife Crisis. I'm sick of feeling like a failure. I want to succeed at my own business or find a remote job that I can succeed at. Because of my neurodivergence, I do not feel qualified to sit in a cubicle in a building from 9 to 5. I have said this since I was like 19 and a half when I quit my first cubicle job. I was like, nope, not for me. I did it for a year and a half. Nope, not for me. But how many times did I try to go back to the cubicle over the last couple decades? It's like, it's never worked. I've known this since I was 19. Like, why do I keep trying at things I fail at? Because that's what I'm supposed to do? Because I'm smart enough to work these kind of jobs? Like, if I'm smart enough to work those kind of jobs, then I'm smart enough to be an entrepreneur. I'm smart enough to run my own business or work from home because I'm an independent person like that. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is really common in neurodiverse people. I've known that I've had Ehlers-Danlos since 2017, somewhere between 17 and 19 is when I started really studying the anatomy of yoga and started learning about hypermobility and things like that. And neurodivergence and Ehlers-Danlos are often found together. And so it's not just the neurodivergent brain that makes it really hard to sit in a cubicle for 8 hours a day, but the way our bodies feel, the way our joints feel, and the way Oh, like I said, these pieces of the puzzle just all go together and make my life make so much sense. And that's great. Life is making sense looking back, but looking forward is what is causing this crisis feeling. I have been feeling such a crisis feeling the last week that I have been contemplating, like, do I just give up my life in Las Vegas that I love and go back to Michigan? But what problem would that solve? Besides, like, I get to be closer to my family and stuff. Like, it's not going to help me find a job. It's definitely not going to, like, build confidence in myself. Like, part of what has felt so good about living out here in Las Vegas has been the, like, I don't think independence is exactly the right word. It's been, like, the freedom to be myself and to, like, recreate myself, but it's the unmasking. It's feeling like I don't need to be anybody else or perform for anybody else, or, you know, after you've shown up in life a certain way for so many years, like, people, that's who they expect you to be. I have had to fight off labels that I was given decades ago that don't apply to me anymore. Like, it can be frustrating trying to be who you are when you're still, like, trying to figure out that exactly, like, I hope I don't sound like batshit crazy in this video. I hope you're not watching this going, oh my God, what is neurodivergence? Part of neurodivergence is actually that I do have a high IQ and I should be operating at that level. Like, if I was a neurotypical person with a high IQ, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be out in that cubicle job like vice president or something. But I don't operate at the level of my IQ because of my neurodivergence. So there's that. So I guess I'm going to call this part 1 of my millennial midlife crisis, because now that the cat's out of the bag and I'm going to feel more comfortable talking about this, I'll probably come talk about it again, whether that's the neurodivergent aspect of it, or just updating you on this millennial midlife crisis, and if I can support myself out here in Las Vegas, or what the next part of the plan is. So before you leave my channel, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Maybe hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. That's the free way you can send support my way. If you're interested, I do have a reselling platform over on Mercari. You can find me at Resells, and I have literally hundreds of cool things for sale. Some things I've thrifted here in Las Vegas, some things you may recognize as being my personal things from other YouTube videos. And of course, there's always my monthly membership where we get together and meal prep together live 2 times a month. We'll have 1 yoga class in August and September. And then coming up in October, we're going to start meeting every week, either for meal prep or meditation and yoga, trying to take care of ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. So thank you so much for stopping by my channel to watch this video. May your millennial midlife crisis pass by peacefully, as hopefully mine does as well. Remember, like they say in High School Musical, we're all in this together. Until next time, be well.